Well, hello everyone. My name is Anne. Welcome to my home studio. You're watching Art on the Creek, and we are in Parker, Colorado today. What you're looking at now is the remaining footage of a review that I did on the Hitoto watercolor set. Now, this is a set that is made by Mei Lang. It's a set of 24 tubes. And I wanted to start by showing you this the swatch here on this page. By the way, this journal is 100% cotton paper, and it also comes from Lightwish, as does the Hitoto set made by Mei Lang. Mei Lang is a division of Paul Rubens, so I would expect quality, and I'm doing a little smudge test here. No smudges. So since these look like they're going to be really fun to paint with, let's go ahead and get started on a clean page here. Now, when I did the initial review on these paints, what I did was a little quick demonstration. It was sped up, of painting a leaf and a pair of Vans shoes, skater shoes. So what I'm going to do today here, by your request, is to slow that down and show you exactly how I rendered the leaf. And the tennis shoes will be in a separate video. Not tennis shoes, the Vans, sorry, the skater shoes. Those will be in a separate video, so you'll have to look for those. If you subscribe to my channel, you can set that notification bell to let you know whenever there's a new video that comes up, and then you guys can catch that right when it happens. These oak leaves are really cool. I don't know what kind of oak tree this is, but I like how thick and waxy they are. And when I pulled the leaf off of this tree, it was really getting ready to just start turning. These leaves are amazing. They're very dark green in the summer, and then they start by showing their yellow in the center, and then it segues into this beautiful ruby red. And this one's kind of in between. The red's more warm. But I really love this little leaf, and thought it would be fun to show you guys that when you have a leaf, you don't always need to draw it. Just trace it. Just trace that leaf. It's already been done for you. Just go ahead and trace it, and then you've got yourself a nice, ready-to-go reference just like that. I do like picking up leaves or finding them on the ground, or taking them from trees in parks or whatnot, because it really is a great reference to have that right there. And if you can't do that, if you're in a situation where that's not possible for you, try and take some photos of your own. Of course, there's always Unsplash and things like that. Yeah, Unsplash and Pixabay, those are the things, the websites that I like to use for photo reference. There's a lot of others. If you're on Facebook, I think there's one called Paint My Picture. Anytime that you're using a reference for a painting that you're doing, be sure that you either have taken the photo yourself or that you have permission to use that. It's another artist that took that photo, and you want to be sure and give credit where credit is due. In this case, we're just going to work right from Mother Nature. So what I'm doing first is going in with just some clean water here, and I'm going to get this leaf area wet. I'm using a Princeton Aqua Elite number 12 long round. I really like the amount of liquid that it holds. And I'm just filling in the entire leaf with water. Now, I live in a very dry climate. This is probably going to dry out, and I might have to reapply, but what I want to do is just to get it so it has a nice sheen on it. Try not to have any really big puddles, but in this case, if you do, that will work just fine. So the paper that I'm using here, like I mentioned, is 100% cotton. I think that works best to do this kind of technique. You can definitely use a wood pulp paper if that's what you have. Just be aware that the water is going to act just a little bit differently on it. So what I'm doing is I'm going in with this set of Hitoto paints that are on that palette that's just off camera. And I'm starting with the yellows, and then I'm going to add kind of this peachy pink color. And we're just going to go ahead and let these colors blend and play on the paper. What I'm trying to do is just to replicate the way that Mother Nature has changed the color on this leaf. First of all, I saw that yellow come out, so I'm going to put that one first in the center. And then I saw that the leaves were turning kind of a yellowish orange. So now I'm putting this peachy tone in, and we'll just proceed along that way, just really dropping different shades in and just having a lot of fun with it. If you have a warm red, you can drop that in. If you have a cool red, you can drop that in as well. However you want your leaf to look. I've seen a lot of really beautiful, beautiful fall leaves that have even added blue. So just have fun, play with it, use whichever pigments really speak to you, and just watch them play on the paper. This is one of my favorite things to do with watercolor, is to just do this wet on wet technique, let the pigments mix on the page, and really just gently encourage them with what direction I would like for them to go. And you can see I'm tipping my brush every now and then to use a different angle of the brush to try and get it to go a different way. So you can really have a lot of fun playing with a bigger brush like this, even when you get into these smaller spaces. Now, when we do the very tips of the leaves, I will come back with a smaller brush, but for now, we're still using the big one. You can see I've gone in with some green. There's still a lot of green in this leaf. And now we'll come in up here with a little bit more of this, this orangey red. This is kind of a color that's in between that yellow and the peach. We're just kind of adding a little bit of warmth here and there. A little bit more of this orangey red here that's going in. And let's see, if you didn't have this particular set, I would just use one of your yellows, a light green, a warm red, and then maybe even a yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is a color very similar to the way this one that I'm putting down right here, either that or a raw sienna. You can really get some beautiful gold. If you have an azo gold, that's a wonderful color to use for fall leaves. Just remember, whatever color you use, you're going to let it play and mix on the page. And here I think I did go in with a little bit of indigo, and I'm trying to get the kind of a dead part of the leaf to show up because that is part of the leaf transition process. It is dying, and I wanted to be able to show that maybe over here a little bit of that cold lifelessness is creeping in. So really just have fun with it. Add whatever colors you like, and now I'm kind of going in and turning that into a bit of a more brown with some burnt sienna. And let's go ahead and see what other colors we can come up with here. We're going to add some of that brown on the bottom, a little bit of blue, mixing it in with some of the darker green. I've really just used just about everything on my palette here, except for the brighter blues and some of the grays. If you use a Payne's gray or a black in this, it may turn out a little bit flat. I think if you wanted to go with something on your leaf that really makes it look like nature has done more blending, which is really just to say you're trying to replicate your colors a little more naturally than forced. So for instance, if we were to go in with a hard brown and a hard black and a definite viridian green, they may not blend and meld as easily together, which is why I wanted to do the wet on wet. Now they'll blend, but it might look a little bit forced and artificial. I wanted to give this leaf a little bit of true life to it, even though I'm not a realistic painter at all. And for me, the best way to do that is to let the watercolor speak for itself and to do what it wants to do. And in order to do that, my favorite way to do it, like I said in the beginning, is with this wet on wet technique. Anytime that you are introducing wet paint into an area that is wet or damp, that is wet on wet or wet on damp. And you can get a lot of really neat, soft techniques. If you get a little bit of too much of a color down here when you're working in this method, it's also very easy to lift off some of the color and create a highlight. So what you can do is you just get your brush wet, dry it off a little bit, and then you'll have a thirsty brush. That brush is going to want to absorb moisture. So when you go back over on your leaf, you can swipe it a little bit firmly and pick up some of the color and get a nice natural highlight. Can you see how this is blending so beautifully? A lot of that is attributed to the cotton paper. Cotton paper for something like this is really very beneficial. In this particular set, this Lightwish cotton paper, it's delightful. I have no negative statements about it whatsoever. I really enjoyed everything. And as I've been using this Meiliang set, the Hitoto watercolors in tubes, I really think this is pretty much a unicorn out there as far as affordable and fun to use art supplies. Now, granted, it is not a professional art supply, so I would not assume in any way that it has any light fastness to it. But these colors, the pigments, are very well made. They use gum arabic as their binder, and they perform, they act just like professional watercolors, with the exception of that light fastness. They do give you some messaging on the box that says to keep it out of direct sunlight. But for your sketchbook, oh my goodness, you guys, no matter which level of watercolor artist you are, no matter where your art is right now in your journey, paints like this, hobby paints that are really good quality, are really good to have in your studio because you can rely on them, you can use them as your practice paints, and that's what a sketchbook is, right? It's just something that we fill with practice. Now, a lot of times, some of our sketchbooks are very beautiful. Some of them are just full of paint swatches and doodles and, frankly, mistakes, and that is fine because that is how you become a better artist. by sketching every day, by painting every day. And something so simple like this leaf, you don't have to set aside a whole lot of time to work on this. You can just do little bits at a time here and there. A leaf, how much more simple could this be? Really very, very fun, very easy to do. Right now we're doing the tips of the leaves that I told you we would be switching brushes. I have moved over to this set. This is by Kanchan Kaul. She's an artist, and I'll put a link to her website in the description because I really like her brushes. I'm also going to link to the Hitoto set from Mei Lang, and if there's a coupon associated with that, I'll put that down there too. Right offhand, I apologize, I can't remember, but I will put some affiliate links down there for you to use. And let me talk about this Kanchan Kaul brush for just a moment. I got a set of these, a couple sets of these from her website, and I have fallen in love with them. They hold the most tremendous points. They're very good at detail. And I love how you can just use them to pull the paint gently out from the tips of this leaf and really get those delicate detail points in. These are just lovely brushes to have. I like their lacquered finish. The stain on the wood is just a natural stain. Really beautiful, really lovely to work with. And what I'm going to do here in just a little bit, I don't know if I'm doing it now or I think I'm still finishing still finishing the little tips on these leaves here. But we're going to use this same brush to come back in to do the veining. And we're going to do some forced cauliflower blooms. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, do you remember when I told you that when you're working on getting your leaf wet in the very beginning, you just want the paper to have a sheen, no puddles. When you have these uneven levels of water, that's when you're going to run into something called cauliflower blooms or back runs. Now at this point in the game where I would get a cauliflower bloom, because this has had time to dry and it's working, and here you can see I'm forcing these right now. I'm going in with drops of water. Now this is intentional to show a little bit of decay on the leaf, but do you see how it's making a little starburst pattern there? There might be times in your painting where you don't want that to happen, but something like this, a leaf, animal fur, rocks, forest floors, trees, sunsets, a lot of things can be really lovely if you do force that cauliflower bloom, where you add water to what you're working on your surface, so that your surface has dried a little bit, so the amount of water that you're putting in is more than what's on the surface. You can do it with paint, you can do it with water, but it really creates some neat effects. And I had so much fun doing this leaf, you guys. I would really enjoy collecting one leaf every day as we go out and walk our dog, and coming home and just doing this as a warm-up painting. This is just so fun. You don't have to think a thing about the drawing because all you have to do is trace your leaf and really just keep it next to you so that you've always got that reference at the ready. And then you can just be creative. And now I'm going in, you can see, with some pigment and adding some spots. The leaf itself isn't really spotty per se, but I'm having so much fun. I really wanted to continue this creative path and just kind of see what the leaf wants to do. I'm really just letting the paints play on the paper, and I'm just experimenting to see what they want to do when I've got this type of situation going on. You can see I've lifted some off there on the left side, and now I'm going to go down here to this lower portion of the leaf and add some dots again in a little bit of a different size. And then I'm going to pull some of them inward, just really having a great time. I love how vibrant these pigments are. It makes this leaf look really vivacious. If you wanted to really mix those colors and get much more of an accurate color likeness, you sure could. This paint really offers everything in its set of 24 tubes. And now that that is completely dry, you probably notice that the leaf looks a little bit more pale. That's because whenever you dry watercolor, there is a color shift. Now I am going in, and that is normal. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just something to be aware of, that if you want something to be really bright and vibrant, you might need to go back in and put a second wash on top, or sometimes even a third. Okay, so now we're going to add this shadow. So what we're doing is I've put some water down because, again, I want soft edges. So wet on wet, where I drew my shadow space in, it was so easy because the light was shining right there. I didn't have to think at all of where the light would go because I had my outline at the ready, tracing my leaf. So all I'm doing is adding the darkest bit of pigment up against the leaf itself, and then I'll use that water to kind of pull it out and really make it very faint toward the edges, which is the way that light diffuses and filters out. So you can really make a natural looking shadow that way. I'm going into a Payne's Gray here, which is a really nice shadow color to use on something like this. It's nicely blue based, and it has a really nice nice ability to be a paint that's going to disseminate and spread in the water. Typically, this one at least, it's got ultramarine in it. It's got that PB29 mixed with black. So for a very simple Payne's grade, this one really fits the bill well, and it will definitely allow me to create this diffused effect. And you'll notice as soon as we put that shadow behind the leaf, it immediately jumps off the page and becomes much more realistic looking. Anything that you're painting, anything that is going to be a little more true to life, it's all about the shadows. Shadows and light. That is what painting is all about. You can paint anything at all and make it look like a sticker, which is to say flat or two-dimensional. But if you really want to bring your art to that next level, really study how the light falls. You want to really focus on which way are those highlights facing, which way are the shadows facing, and try and replicate that in your art so that you can come up with something like this that kind of lifts off the page a little bit and gives you just a little bit more realism. So if you're like me and you're not at all a realistic painter, you know, this is a really good way to give your work a little bit more of that nudge toward being a realistic painting. I don't claim to be realistic at all, you guys. I just really like to leave my artistic signature on whatever it is I'm painting. And there's a real reason for that. For me, for my personal experience in art, I prefer to show my handwriting, my style in that work of art that I'm creating. I don't want to take the time to be photorealistic. There are many artists out there who do, and if you are one of those, my hat goes off to you. I don't have that kind of patience. I don't have that kind of brush control. It's just not in me. However, I really enjoy my own artistic license and my own artistic style, and I have embraced that. It took me years to figure out that really my painting was my handwriting. And just as your handwriting changes over the years, and I can tell you after the numerous candles that are on my birthday cake at this point, my handwriting has changed quite a bit over the years. And I'm happy with it. I've come to embrace that my art has changed over the years as well. Right now, what you're seeing is an example of my favorite way to paint, my style. And I hope that wherever you are in your artistic journey, that you are discovering your style as well and allowing yourself time to play. Play is the one biggest key that I can share with you that will help you unlock your style as an artist. Always try new things, always experiment. Don't be afraid. If you've never painted a leaf before, maybe this is your sign, right? Maybe this is your time to try something new. Go ahead and take that step. If it scares you, it might be an opportunity for growth. And if not growth, then at least you will find something that you have found out doesn't work for you. And that's something that we all need to remember as artists, that if something works for another artist, it may not work for you. Don't compare yourself to other artists. Just embrace who you are, how you express yourself on the business end of a paintbrush, and what is your reason for creating art? Let me know in the comments, what is your reason for creating art? For me, this particular leaf was definitely for relaxation. I love trying new art supplies, and I really enjoyed using these paints. But boy, this little session that I had in my studio the other day was really very relaxing. And I was so happy when you guys commented that you wanted to have the full-length tutorial on the leaf and on the vans that I painted as samples in that review of the Hitoto set. So if you enjoyed this, I hope that you are also painting along and enjoying painting your own leaf. We've gone in and added the veins, and now we're just tightening up these shadows, really making things really crisp. And again, we're dealing with that the color shift. After the watercolor has dried, it does turn a little bit lighter. So I'm just going back in and punching up some of these areas, making the shadow diffuse a little bit more, really just giving it a softer overall look, but keeping those edges nice and crisp where I want that shadow line to be the darkest. So I think we're just about done here. Let's see how the final came out. You may let your work dry naturally, but most of the time you'll see me use a heat tool, as I've done here. And for this, I'm just going to sign it in pencil. I'm trying to decide which side I want to put my signature, and I usually put something very simple, just my first name, the month, and the year. You guys, no matter where you are in your artistic journey or how you feel about what you've just painted, I highly recommend that you sign your work. It's a real indicator of where you are in your artistic journey. And when you're looking in a journal, working in a journal rather, you really want to have something to look back on and really learn how you've progressed, to be able to see that. And what better way to be able to see your progression as an artist than to just collect all of your skills in a nice little journal and sign each one, put a date on it so that you'll know where you were when you painted that beautiful leaf. All right, you guys, I'm going to fumble with this little display a little bit more, but let's take a look at the final photo. I hope all of you are really enjoying a wonderful November, getting ready for December and all its festivities. And no matter where you are, I hope you can find time to set aside time for yourself, really enjoy nature around you, and maybe try and paint some in your journals. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye now.